Welcome to What Was He Thinking? My name is A.B. Bracewell. Today I'm going to be your personal tour guide through a man's psyche. Take this journey as we explore why a man thinks the way he thinks, why a man acts the way he acts, and why a man feels the way he feels. No question is off limits, and no topic is too hard. By the end of the show, you'll have a better understanding and a better insight of who we are as men. If you've been following the series, then you know that we are doing a series on the sexual education of Black men in America. So far, we have spoken about sex and marriage. We have spoken about healing the hurt that we've caused. We have talked about healing the hurt within us and how sometimes we use our unhealthy sexual habits to hide some of the pain that we go through as men. And today we're going to be talking about sex and success. Sex and success. Now, we're going to be talking about how sex impacts the way we progress in life, how it impacts the way it might hinder our success, how our sexual habits might impact the way it takes us a little bit longer or make a little longer road to get to success. We're going to be talking about the influences that we had from a young child, from a young boy up to manhood, and how that might have prevented, or how that maybe even have advanced our progress towards success in our careers, in our lives, with family, with community. And we're going to be talking about all of that. And today, as usual, I have some very, very, very special guests with me on the show. I'm never on here alone. I have some guys that's going to bring some wisdom, going to bring some insight, going to bring some transparency, and they're going to bring some personal experience to their journey with sex and success, and how they've taken that journey and how that journey has taken them. I have two good brothers with me. I'm going to bring them on the stream right now. Introduce yourselves before we even jump into the topic.
All right. Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity, AB, for allowing me to be on your platform and be able to interact with your audience. It's always a pleasure. For everybody that doesn't know me, I go by the name of Dejan Talks. I am a keynote motivational speaker. I also own a company called Blue Light Consulting Services, which caters to small business startups. And we tailor you to go from what we call singular businesses to plural. So literally, we just duplicate your process without duplicating the effort. So we teach you how to do that. In addition to that, like AB just alluded to during my introduction, I started a clothing company, which is more than a clothing company. It's actually it's a way of life in a sense called Restored. And why Restored is needed in our community is for this particular reason. 20% of our proceeds from Restored goes into scholarship programs for kids who has a parent that is in prison to be able to go to college absolutely free at the high school level. So if you're in high school and you have a parent that's in prison, whether it's your mom or your dad, and you aspire to go to college, well, Restored is the company that is trying to send you to college for absolutely free. If you're in the middle school or elementary school level, and you have a parent that's incarcerated, we want to put you in after-school programs to change the narrative of your life. We want to teach you things like entrepreneurship, stem cells, arts, investments, all of the things that we didn't learn growing up, coding, UX designs, the things that are the way of the future. So we're looking at where the future is going and what's going to be hot, what's going to bring money into our communities, and we want to re-impact. No shade on any other company, no shade on Nike, Louis, or Gucci. But when you take your personal money and you go invest that money to them, go find out their portfolio. Where do they reinvest that money? And does that benefit your community, or does that hinder your community? So no shade to them, but I believe this is why people should at least think about partnering up with Restored. We don't have any customers. We don't believe in customers at Restored. You either believe in the mission and you say you want to invest and partner up with us to change another kid's life. In addition to that, the last thing that I do, the other side of this coin that I'm speaking about, I go into the prison system and I teach their parents. I teach their parents business. So not only am I trying to take their kids and send them to college because their kids are twice as likely to end up in prison, But I actually go into the prison, work with men that are 3 years to be released. I do a Shark Tank talk up content in there. I teach them business, and I try to get their business started before they even come out of prison, so that way they could be a solution to society and not a problem to society. And maybe they could pay it forward and hire other men coming out of prison, right? And my name is Dejon Talks, and I look forward to having a conversation with you guys.
Thank you, brother. You're doing a lot of good stuff in the community, man. Not Nari?
That's dope. What's good, everybody? My name is Nari Charles. First and foremost, I am a family man, proud family man, a father and husband. Also, I'm a mentor and a coach. And right now, I am in the middle of my job. I'm in the middle of my lunch. So, but I'm just a guy that's trying to leave the world better than when I found it. People have blessed me. People have looked out for me. People have given me opportunities, and I want to do the same. Part of the reason why I became a mentor at the youth level was before I even started coaching. I just want people to not always just look down on the younger generation and complain about them and knock them for everything that they're doing wrong, but understand there's quite a few of them doing wrong because nobody pulled them aside to do right. So we as Black men have to stand in that gap and show them, yeah, there's a way to get it done without the shortcuts, without illegal things and stuff like that. So if you get them when they're younger, then even like the brother Dejon just said, they can be an asset to society later on. It doesn't just stop with that one kid that you touch. It passes on to everybody else that they meet and they affect. So that's just me trying to make my ripples.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you brothers for coming on. And as you spoke, this whole broadcast is about touching those that was behind us, touching the younger generation. As you know, that the conversation is about sex and success. As men, sexuality is a major thing for us. It really dictates a lot of the choices we make in life. There are a lot of behaviors that we have. So I thought it was important for us to really dive into the sexual education of Black men, and how it affects our relationships. How it affects us in the community, how it affects us today with success. So my first question, before we even dive into the success part, my first question is, when it comes to Black men, do you think that is anything specific as far as the way we learned about sex that's specific to our community, specific to our race, specific to our environment, that's not really taught or modeled in other communities or other races? Is anything specific to us as Black men when it comes to sexual education? And anybody can go.
I think one of the things that may be unique is our music. And that's kind of in an unfortunate way. The imagery that a lot of our, because I'm not gonna lie, I do claim hip hop is our music. So a lot of rap, a lot of hip hop, the imagery that's put forth in these videos kind of sexualized us at a younger age than maybe we normally would have been. Just listening maybe to regular R&B, even though they had sneaky stuff in theirs, it was sneaky. Seeing the things in the videos, I think kind of advanced some of us a little bit farther than what we were supposed to be. You seeing the naked ladies or the half naked ladies. I mean, there's a generation of kids that came up during the BET Uncut age. So, you know what I'm saying? For somebody like me who TV shut off after a certain time, there's other kids who grew up, and around that time, around 1 o'clock, BET Uncut came on, and that's pushing you way beyond wherever you thought you was as a kid with the stuff they were showing you. Shoot, as an adult, it was just kind of like, eye-popping for me to see that just on, TV on a music channel. So I definitely think that the imagery that comes with some of our music helps, well, not help, I don't want to say help, but influences how we perceive sex and sexuality a lot sooner, and that's particular to us as Black people.
I just believe our environment in general. When I speak, I always say the 3 highest level of education I ever saw was the pimp, the drug dealer, and if you were not the pimp or the drug dealer, you were the mechanic, all right? So you were the pimp, you were the drug dealer, and the third best guy on the block, we had the mechanic, right? So these were our high level of influence within whatever level of education that we got, right? when I grew up, my personal background was my dad was highly religious as far as sending me to church, but he never went to church. My dad was a very monotone man, never spoke much about anything. So all of my sexual influence, I got them from the streets, from dudes that were much older than me, and they were putting what we call game down to a shorty, telling me blah 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 blah, and it was like my masculinity, my manhood had to be revolved around how many I can smash, and if my manhood was not revolved around that, then I wasn't a man. You know, back then they would call you certain words, you know, that starts with F, ends with a G, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I wasn't smashing, then I wasn't a man, right? So my ideology of sex at a young age was, if I can't smash as much as they smash, then I'm not a man. Because my madness, because lack of education, obviously, right? My madness is defined by how many women I can put down in that bed, right? How many women I can really put it down. Then on the flip side of that, you know, highly religious. So we go to church, and the church is condemning a certain behavior until marriage, right? And there's not really a defined balance, right, in this conversation. So on one side of the scale, you got this hard narrative that doesn't even want to touch sex. It just condemns and says, don't do, no conversations, no casual conversations to educate you, to let you know why and why you're not. Just don't do it, and that's it, or you're going to go to hell. So you got this on one side of your ear, and on the other side of the ear, you got the streets. You got the streets, right? And then the boys in the street tell you, listen, champ, if you ain't smashing, you ain't no man. So I think for me, honest to goodness, if I had to say where my major influences of sex, because I didn't have the luxury of BET Uncut, I didn't have cable. So I get it what you're saying. I didn't even have cable. So I didn't have no BET Uncut. I had the basic, whatever TV had on TV, that's what I had, the basics. WB 39, UPN 33. Yeah, I remember those Saturday morning. I had those. So I didn't have that luxury. But when it came down to the streets or the church, those were my playground and my educational platforms.
It's like two very different messages to receive. And I guess you kind of left to yourself to figure out which one to go, which direction to go in. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, as a young man, you know, we're going to get pulled by the lessons that's taught by the streets. You know, maybe we'll go in a different.
Especially when you have a militant parent where you can't take those conversations back home.
You
really have certain conversations in certain homes, right? You know, we hear growing up, birds and bees. We hear this, but is there really a birds and the bees in our home?
Yeah.
You know, so we hear it, but is there really a birds and bees conversation in our home settings, right?
Not in many homes. Not in many homes.
Okay.
Not Reed, what about you? What were some of your influences? What kind of developed like your mentality towards sex and the opposite sex?
Kind of similar to the John in that my mom was very Christian and very spiritual. So at home, it was just no. That's it. Until I get married, sex is no, equals. Like, that's really it. That is the equation, not plus or anything. Sex equals no. Like, that's it. So everything else had to be from what I saw in my hood and what I was hearing at school. Getting involved in sports kind of really made things hypersexualized, because it wasn't good enough to just be good at sport unless you was like elite. And even then, if you was elite, but you wasn't getting no cheeks, you was still a bid. Like, you was still a target to get made fun of. You could average 20 and you ain't got no girl. They don't see you with no girls lined up. They don't think you doing nothing. Or if they see you with girls, but nobody's hearing that you're doing anything with them, you still kind of get this weakness tagged on you. So without even realizing it, for me, it was definitely some of the teammates I had and the things that I saw around the way, because certain people just really came off like the man to me. And being as though I was raised in a single parent household, you want to be like the man. You had the adult version of the man. You had the version of the man who was slightly older than you. You had the version of who was going to be the man that was your age. All three of them dudes had women whenever they wanted it, got women however they wanted it. So I'm not going to lie, that definitely looked more appeasing than what my pastor was talking about, and what mom was trying to shove down my throat. So that and my teammates was probably some of the biggest influences I had. Not just teammates, opponents too. Because if an opponent find out you're a virgin, you hear that all game long.
Wow. During the game? Wow. That trash talking to a whole nother level, man. So I think it's established that, you know, we've all have similar teachings, similar education when it comes to our sexual behavior growing up. Now I want to get a little bit deeper into our topic. My question is, how does sex, or how has sex impacted your success in life? Or even not, if you could think a little broader, how do you think sex impacts us as men when it comes to progressing and becoming successful?
I'll jump in first on that one. I feel like in general for men, sex could easily be a distraction. Chasing, you know, all these girls we thought we supposed to have, you know, everybody nowadays talk about chasing the bag, but you will lose the bag chasing the female, chasing the woman. It's easy to get distracted. It's easy to not be the best at whatever it is you're doing because you're so busy trying to rack up these women. Like how DeJohn said, I was decent at ball, but then there's guys that's really good at ball. So the women are always going to keep coming and the sex offers are always going to keep coming. But the more sex you have, the less you practicing. The less you practicing, the more someone is getting better, and the divide between you and the elite widens to the point where you can no longer compete at the highest levels. And that's just in sports, but not just in sports, in business. You know, you can't close deals if you're busy chasing, you know, tail. You really can't. You know, I know we've all heard that phrase, get the sale before the tail. Yeah, you got to close your business deals before you could afford to have fun. So I think that's on the general aspect. But for me, I have to say that at one point, it kept me out the gym. As much as I loved basketball, and I mean, you know, I love basketball. It doesn't even matter how far my skills have degraded. I love the sport itself, and I can't stay away from it. But I went from being a gym rat to a guy who was in the gym maybe 3 times a week because I was so busy, you know, kind of trying to get caught up with girls. And like I said, I wasn't good enough to afford to take that much time off. So whereas I thought that would get me I thought basketball could help get a scholarship, or I thought I could walk on at Penn State. By the time I see the competition at just the walk-on level, I see these are guys that didn't spend no time worried about girls because they knew the girls would come after they hit the team. My priorities was wrong. So that's where it influenced me, and it set me back from something that was a big dream of mine in terms of playing D1 college ball.
See, girls are told to preserve, men are told to hunt for value. If you look at college right now, so he's using college as an example. Black women are graduating college at 3 times a higher level as a black man. Black women are starting more small businesses at 3 times a higher level than a black man. Women are just going to college and graduating at a much higher level. Why? Would we think that maybe preservation, the mindset of not chasing sex and chasing success, right? Because that's the question. Not chasing sex, but chasing success has led them to end making better decisions that leads up to better results. Yes, I wholeheartedly believe that because I can see it in the numbers. The numbers don't lie, right? So like we say in sports, numbers don't lie. When you're a boxer or a fighter, they tell you no sex while you're preparing for a fight. None. Why is that, bro? I mean, I need my stressful release. No. Reserve yourself because there are certain things inside of you that stops you from being focused, right? And unfortunately, as much as enjoyable sex is psychologically and biologically, there are things that it does to your body chemically wise that's going to impact your performance, like he just stated. You're going to get them weak legs that get you knocked out, right? So they tell you to reserve yourself so you don't go get some weak legs and not be able to dunk or get knocked out on the court, right? So I said all that to say this. Yes, I believe that when we as men are chasing the sex, it becomes a handicap towards success. It will impact you because your focus is different. And it's just a basic, simple level, because you're a father, I'm a father, he's a father. On a basic level, you have a child. Everything changes. All right? that 30 minutes of fun or that 2 minutes of fun, however long you lasted, bro, everything just changed. Right? Everything. Life changed. I was on my junior year of playing college ball, and my girl got pregnant. You know what happened to NBA dreams?
Out the window.
What NBA? I had to get a second job.
Yeah.
I had to get a second job now because I'm in college full time on a full scholarship, mind you. I'm on a full ride. So that Penn State he was chasing, I was actually blessed enough to get it, but I was not blessed enough to keep it.
And, you know, what you're saying is probably going right into my next question. So I want to know, what was that turning point for you guys when you decided to change your mentality, change your behavior towards women, towards sex, and to focus on your goals, focus on your dreams? Like, what was that point when you decided to do different?
I take the first jab at this one. My son, literally responsibility. The word responsibility, because that was something that we really didn't have much of. Was the word responsibility. We knew we had things to do, but we didn't define them as responsibility. Like, I knew I had to train for basketball, but I didn't call it responsibility. I just love playing ball. Like, this was a passion. This was not responsible. Take me to the gym, like he was saying. Take me to the gym because this is what I love to do, right? So all my life, I was really doing things that I love to do. I wanted money, so I made money. I wanted to be the best baller, so I was the best baller. I wanted great. I just did it because I wanted it, not because I wanted to be responsible. I'm a competitive person. I have high driving competency, so I want to dominate. So I just chose to dominate. That was just my mindset. That's how my mind set up. Until my son showed up on the scene, and I was only 22 years old. 22. I'm not even done with college, right? 22 years old, my son shows up on the scene. And my whole life changes. Everything that selfishness inside of me ran out the door with his birth. I think that's the best way for him to express this. That selfishness inside of me to satisfy my needs, all of a sudden the focus was no longer on me. It was on this little guy that just came out. And my whole world had to be focused no longer on what I saw in the mirror, but it was on that child. So forget sex now, because like, well, sex got me this one. Right now, my whole focus is this.
I could definitely relate and understand where you're coming from on that, Dejon. Like, I think me and you probably walked the same journey with that. Yeah. What about you, Nah? What about you? What was that turning point for you?
I think for me, the turning point was kind of like mistakes that I made. I would say my first heartbreak played a big part in it. Like, it's like, you know, I'm in love with this girl, and you know, while I'm home in Philly, we had it like rabbits. While I'm away, nothing's going on. She cheats on me. We break up. Or rather, she dumped me. I'll be 100 about it. She dumped me or whatever. And it's kind of like, at that point, it's kind of like, all the sex for what? You know what I'm saying? It didn't do nothing for me. And she didn't have no whole bunch of partners before me, as far as what I knew. I thought I was her second, so I thought I meant everything. We were in love, and you know, I'm being good to her, and the sex is amazing. I'm thinking, okay, well, cool. So if you're gonna cheat on me just because I'm not physically present for not even the whole 4 months, then you know, it kind of showed me that maybe I was putting too much value in sex, and that maybe I need to put more value in the things that matter to me. Because even after she dumped me, and yeah, you know, there's girls on campus that's like, oh, well, you know, so forth and so on. It's kind of like, all right, but my grades are still not right. I could mess around and get kicked out of school. I can't afford that. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple of scholarships, and I'm looking at too many loans to afford to get kicked out of school. So now everything has to flip-flop. I ended up having to retroactively withdraw my entire first semester behind that. And then I just had to kick butt for the rest of my semesters there. Like, I had to grind super hard. I needed at least a 3.7 for the very next semester in my mind. That was the way I structured it. I said 4.0, but I said I wouldn't be happy with anything less than a 3.7, 3.8. I ended up making a 4.0. So it just learning that really it's not going to get you but so far. It was the pain. That all the sex I could get didn't keep me from no pain, and that kind of made me look at it different.
So before we end, we only got a few minutes left, but I know all of us are fathers on here. Probably if you had 1 minute or maybe 2 minutes to sit your son down and talk to him about sex and success and what he should do in that situation, what advice would you give him? And what advice would you give younger men that you either mentor or that you know that's looking up to?
I'll tell you exactly what I told him. Because he's 13, so we have had the talk. I'll tell you exactly what I told him in the most condensed version. There'll be plenty of time for sex. Focus on what you need to get done first. I guarantee you, if you get these things done, you'll have even more time for the sex that you want and the sex that you can afford to enjoy. It's nothing worse than sitting here, you know, having sex, and then you got to worry about your problem right after. It's right there. As soon as you get up, as soon as you roll over, the problem is right there. It blows the high. All the chemicals that come from having sex, it dissipates. You can't even get to enjoy it. Sometimes it's even less time than what you would have wanted to do because you got so many things going on. I told him there's always going to be women and there's always going to be sex. There's no need to rush into it. Do what you need to do for what you want to do first. Whatever it is you want to be in life, there's things you need to do to get there. Handle those first. I guarantee you sex ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. And I'm sure when you told him things, when you told him sex he can afford to have, he was talking about the ability, not monetary afford, right?
Yes, the ability. Yeah, definitely not monetary. I didn't want to encourage that. I don't judge nobody if that's their twist, but I definitely wasn't encouraging that. Definitely about the ability, because girls, some girls will mess around and have sex with you with your mattress on the floor, but a lot of girls these days ain't trying to hear that. So, you know.
Dejan, it's on you. What would you tell your son? We probably got about a minute left. What would you tell your son if you sit down and talk to him, or your sons, I should say?
I actually had to have that one with my freshman. I have a freshman right now in high school, right? And then I look through his phone because I pay for it. I'm actually a parent that says I pay for this, so I look through it, right? Don't tell me nothing. And what I saw, you know, let me know that this is not the little baby that you can see in your eyes. You need to have a talk, right? Because remember, the access that we had to sex growing up is not the access that these kids have to sex growing up because of the age of internet. The same thing we're using right here is a double-edged sword. I mean, porn, sex is everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's free, right? You don't have to go find a magazine or a VHS tape test, right? So it's free, right? So I'm showing my age, right? So it's free. So I actually had to sit down with him because he's following in my footsteps in the whole basketball thing. He plays high school ball. So I told him, well, who was the basketball player that had sex with 1,000 women? Because, you know, that's famous. He's famous right now. He has a book because of this. And he told me, I'm like, there was another one, and he's a drug addict, right? From LA by the name of Lamar Odom, right? And I showed him 2 examples of what he aspires to be and what the results were, right? And I'm like, do you like these results? He told me, I don't like any of these results. I'm like, well, that's the result that that's the path that you're heading. So if you don't like the trajectory of something that you aspire to be and you see this result, you still have a chance to make a change, right? In addition to that, I told him, one of those basketball players, Bill Russell, even though he has a book said I had sex with 1,000 women, he says the most experience he's had out of that was this. It is better to have sex with one woman 1,000 times and enjoy that than to have sex with a different 1,000 women. That was the lesson that he learned. Then I'm a man of faith, so I had to retie back that down with God. So then I went to the book of Solomon, the man that had the most women ever to ever walk this earth. This man had 300 wives and 700 concubines. That means he had 1,000 women too. And I told him, Solomon says this, just like your favorite basketball player, at the end of the day, all of this is vanity. After the pleasure is gone, is vanity. And I told him, what made Solomon fall? A foreign woman for foreign sex. And I don't think you want to face that fall. So that's how I presented it to him.
Thank you, man. I thank both of you brothers, you know, for taking the time out to share some of your wisdom, your experiences, all that good stuff, man. For those that are watching, once again, I'm A.B. Bracewell. I'm with my brother Dejan, my brother Nari. This is What Was He Thinking? The sexual education of Black men in America. But please stay tuned for episode 2, or episode that will be 4, episode right after this, where the ladies come on and they have questions for us about what the discussion we just had. So thank you brothers. Thank you for watching. God bless.